there, scientists. Just wanted to do a quick follow-up for the carbon cycle simulation. Some of you were in class today, but maybe need a little refresher. Some people maybe weren't there. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance to go through the carbon cycle kind of in its entirety before you do the analysis for homework. So this is what the carbon cycle kind of looks like in all of the little pieces. And you'll see this on the homework as well. It looks a little bit overwhelming though, so I want to walk through it kind of one piece at a time. So first, one of the players in the carbon cycle is the atmosphere. And the atmosphere gives carbon to other parts of the Earth systems through two primary approaches. The first is diffusion and dissolving. The carbon dioxide goes into the water. That's the oceans, lakes, rivers, and streams. Okay. The other way that the atmosphere can give carbon to the rest of the cycle or through the rest of the cycle is through photosynthesis to trees and other vegetation on land. Water is another player, and that gives carbon in two different ways as well, both through diffusion back up into the atmosphere and through photosynthesis. So you see some commonalities there, right? That the atmosphere and the water both can provide that carbon to plants, depending on where those plants are located. The sediments and rocks are a huge carbon sink. They have lots of carbon in them, and they provide carbon to two primary other parts of this story. The first is to the atmosphere through volcanic eruptions. Think about those big plumes of smoke and dust and all of the ash that goes into the atmosphere, and that provides a lot of carbon to the atmosphere when that happens. Also through weathering and erosion. We talked about that when we were talking about the rock cycle, right? So weathering and erosion occur, and it breaks down some of that rock, and in doing so, some of that carbon goes into waterways as well. Algae are the aquatic plants, kind of all of those plants that live in the water. And there are three ways that those plants can give off carbon to other parts of the cycle. The first is through consumption. Plants and animals animals in the water that eat those plants consume the carbon, and so they get some carbon from that. Also through cellular respiration. When the algae gives off that carbon dioxide, gives off the gases that it gives off. Some of it is carbon that comes out of that algae. And then finally, through decomposition. Basically, all of the components of the cycle that are alive, when they die, they decompose. And in doing so, they give away or give off some of their carbon. Speaking of the living organisms, we've got the marine snails that represent kind of all aquatic animals. They give off carbon both through respiration by breathing and then also through decomposition, again, similar to the algae. Trees, we've got more vegetation, right, through decomposition, consumption, just like with the algae. And this time we've got the land animals that are eating the vegetation. And then finally through cellular respiration and decomposition. Hopefully, as we're going through this, you see some commonalities that in terms of the processes through which this carbon is distributed. And then finally, we've got the caterpillars. That represents all of the animals on the land. And the land animals give off carbon in two different ways, both through respiration and decomposition. Hopefully, going through these slides helped to make, this a little bit less intimidating. Now, look forward to some analysis with it. Have a great time.